beyond Dharma and just talk about any other spiritual things in general, we can also open it up like that as well.
Yeah, and we have time until 1 o'clock. It's just that you know. I don't know if you do that.
Just because we need to leave at 2.
Oh, it's no
so
problem.
maybe
Yeah.
like 12:45 maybe.
Okay. We don't want to squeeze you.
Completely selfless. Not on that level yet.
Yeah, sure.
Please,
No
yes.
problem.
Yes, I have so many questions, but I have to reduce to only 2. One comment to his questions. I used to say that altruism is selfish, because when you, that is what I try to tell people, what makes you really happy is when you do something for others, and when you take yourself back and say, oh, I give it to you, and yes, afterwards you feel better. And but that was just a comment. My question is, isn't the Dharma of us all the same? So the Dharma is to make this world a better place and to serve to all beings, also to all animals and to all trees and plants. But the talents we get to fulfill our Dharma are different. So it's like we are the gardeners in a huge garden. The garden is the whole world, and some of us like to take care for the rose garden, and others they prefer to plant vegetables, and the thirds they like to construct the paths in the garden. And we have to find out. I mean, as I said before, not we ourselves, but together with a teacher, with a good teacher. That is the job of a teacher, to support us to find out what our talent is. And now the one question which is I'm asking myself every day since years, it's about Bill Gates. He was born in a very rich family, and so I think he has good karma. And he has many talents, because now he is very famous, and he is influenced, and he is doing many things, I think, which he thinks they are good. But I think he has so much money, so he could build schools in India and support whole India with clean drinking water. But what is he doing? He supports India with his, bullshit vaccinations. And why isn't Krishna whispering into his ears what would be a real good thing? Because I ask myself, is he really selfish, or does he think that what he is doing is good? Because one day he will stand in front of Krishna, and Krishna tells him, look, Bill, I gave you so many talents. What did you do with your talents?
There's a joke actually that Bill Gates went to the pearly gates, the gates of heaven. So then God said, you want to go to hell or you want to go to heaven? So he goes, show me hell. So then he got a vision of hell, like people were partying, it was a nightclub, they were dancing, And then he said, give me a vision of heaven. And God gave him a vision of heaven, and it was very peaceful, angels, harpsichords. So he came back, he thought, I think I want to go to hell. So then he went down to hell, and then in a moment, all these people came and started attacking him. So he came to God, he said, hey, what happened? You gave me a vision of hell, and it was very different. God said, that was just the screensaver. Bill Gates, what to say? Well, in the Bhagavatam, it's very interesting. There's very famous verse. Janmeshwarya Shruta Shribhir Eidhamana Badapuman Nirvar Hatya Vidatum Vei Tvamakinchana Gocharam. This is actually a verse recited by Kunti, Queen Kunti, very amazing queen. She says basically, if you have these four things in your life, you can understand that you are endowed with good karma. How do you know someone's got good karma? First thing is janma. They have an upbringing in which they're provided with everything. They have a very good family upbringing. That's a sign of good karma. Often many people don't get that opportunity in their life, and it holds them back. They feel it holds them back. So first thing is good family upbringing. Aishwarya means wealth. If wealth comes to you, like for some people, they don't even have to work hard, like money just comes, yeah? Somehow, good karma, people just attract money. Shruta, which means good cognitive ability, a clear intelligence, ability to discriminate and process information. That's a sign of good karma. And Shri, beauty. One has physical beauty, and this is also considered a sign of good karma. So, but what is explained by the Bhagavatam is that good karma in and of itself neither makes you happy, nor is any indication of your spirituality. However, good karma can be used if that good karma is utilized in service. Remember, passion plus expertise plus service. Or you could say whatever facilities you've been given, if you use that in service, then it becomes dharma. So, good karma neither makes you happy, neither is an indication of your spirituality. Just because someone can sit on a seat and speak many things eloquently, that's no sign of their spirituality, because that just could be a material ability. But when we use it in service, then it's important. Now, for something to be service, it has to encompass two things: intention and knowledge. Something is service when one has a good intention and one has the appropriate knowledge, right? So many people may have a good intention, but they don't have the proper knowledge. And therefore, in their attempts to serve the world, they may actually be creating more harm. Therefore, we often tell people, when the compass of knowledge combines with the passion to serve, then it becomes compassion. So many people have a passion to serve, but they're not guided by a compass of knowledge. And therefore, we can't say it's true service, because true service must be accompanied by wisdom. So I don't want to make a comment on Bill Gates or his policies or his ideas or whatever. I'm not privy to all of that. But we can say in general that if one has good karma and one has an intention to serve, and one is then having the appropriate wisdom to orientate their service, then one can do amazing things in this world. The opportunity is there. Here's my politically correct response to the question. Since we're online. And we have Bill Gates to thank for being online, I'm sure. So we don't want to disparage him too much.
Thank you.
Yes.
So we have one online question. So it's from Sveta. How we can identify the professional work or housewife work we are doing is correct as per our dharma? Like what we are doing, how can we determine, identify whether that is our dharma?
Of course, I mentioned those things again, that when you're living in your dharma, you'll experience all these different things. Now when I'm talking today about Dharma, actually it's important, it's good that this point was brought up. Today when I'm talking about Dharma, what I'm basically been focusing on today is career Dharma, what you do as an occupation. But actually Dharma is not just your career. Dharma can refer to, there are many aspects of Dharma. So let me just show you. Varna Dharma means your career. So that's what we've been speaking about today, that you have a job, you have an occupation, try to find your abilities and do that. But another type of Dharma is your ashram Dharma. So every one of us are in a certain stage of life, and according to the stage of life we're in, within this society we have obligations, we have duties, we have responsibilities that we need to fulfill. That is also part of your Dharma. That's also part of your meaning and purpose in this life. There is also something called Apadharma. Apadharma means sometimes an emergency arises, and therefore we have certain things that we have to do as Dharma in an emergency situation, right? Like if there's a fire in the building and someone says, "Oh, you quick, Roman, get that fire extinguisher," and you say, "Well, I'm sorry, it's not my Dharma to be a fireman." And it's like, okay, I know you're not a fireman, I know that's not what you do for a living, but we got a fire on our hands here, like pick up the, you know what I mean? So there is also an emergency Dharma that sometimes we also have. Then there is Samanya Dharma. Samanya Dharma means a universal morality and ethics by which we have to all live. So that is also part of our Dharma. Like in a civilized society, you need to be tolerant. In a civilized society, you need to be truthful. These are also part of your Dharma. It's also part of Dharma. And then Guna Dharma, which means, basically different qualities you have that are employed. Anyway, I won't go too much, that's complex, I'll go into that later. But essentially, so we have all of these dharmas. So like now being a housewife or taking care of your children, you may not see that as your varna dharma, it's not your career, but it's part of your ashram dharma. It may be part of your life stage to be doing that dharma. So eventually we begin to see that, there are different types of dharma, and what we try to do is integrate them and conduct them in such a way that they support and energize the other dharmas. But generally when you're in your dharma, like I showed you that other slide, you'll know because you'll feel these effects. And it's not that all dharma will naturally give you energy, that all dharma is joyfully done. In dharma there is also sacrifice. In dharma there is also there are times when you're not always feeling like that's what you want to do. But long term, by doing those things, I'm sure a mother or a father doesn't always feel completely energized in their role as a parent. But overall, you know that when you follow that dharma, later on, the feeling and the development that creates within you is the fruit of it.
Hare Krishna. Now we've been talking mostly about the outer aspect of success or dharma, and I'm just very interested in the other as well. So if you could just elaborate a little more on how they connect, or in our everyday life, how can we make sure that they inform one another or support one another.
Thank you. Okay, so let me now connect your dharma. So all of these dharmas, ultimately, they are all meant to feed, and they are all meant to energize, and all meant to create opportunities for our ultimate aspiration, which is to find spiritual connection. There's a very famous verse in the Bhagavad Purana, Dharma svanustita pumsham vishvakshena katha shuya Notparayad yadi ratim shrama eva hi kevalam. Shrama eva hi kevalam is a very emphatic Sanskrit statement. Eva means certainly. Kevala means only. And Shrama eva he means certainly. And Shrama means useless. So what this verse of the Bhagavatam says is that if you do all of your dharmas in this world, but it doesn't lead you to find spiritual connection, it doesn't assist you in feeling closer and connected to divinity, then all of that following of dharma is ultimately a useless waste of time. Because dharma, only when it's orientated in such a way that it leads to a feeling of closeness and connection with the divine, then it actually fulfills its purpose. Otherwise, if you do your swadharma perfectly, but you don't incorporate it into your divine journey, then in English they say the operation was successful, but the patient died. You basically done your operation in this world of fulfilling all your, but you died, spiritually you died, because you didn't realize that that's the ultimate aspiration. So basically it means that all of these dharmas that I'm talking about, each one of them should have a spiritual contribution. Through your career, so let's take career because we've been talking about that today. How do you spiritualize your career? How do you do your career in this world in such a way that it contributes to your Sanatana Dharma? Well, basically it means you connect the different aspects of that career. From your career you get some kind of monetary gain. You can use that finance in the service of others, in the service of divinity. From your career you learn certain skills. So you can use those skills that you've learned in your career in service to the divine, in service to others, in service of the mission of sharing spiritual knowledge. From your career you get a certain position and influence. From that position and influence of your career, can you use that to bring about spiritual change in the world? From your career you get access to a network of people. Now in your network of people and your one-to-one interactions, can you inspire them in spirituality? Then you use your career position not just for material maintenance but for divine service. And so when we become smart about how to use our particular life situations in service to the divine, then your Swadharma and your Sanatana Dharma connect. For example, if someone has an ashram dharma and they're a mother, you can be a mother or you can be a spiritual mother. Being a mother means you'll care for your child, you'll nurture them, you'll instill good qualities in them, and then you'll give them all opportunities to be successful in this world. Being a spiritual mother means you do all of those, and you also realize that this is not my son or daughter. This is a spirit soul that has been sent to me that I have to care for, and I have to inspire and empower on their spiritual journey back to their ultimate destination. And when that becomes the underlying theme behind your interaction with your child, then you become a spiritual mother. Then you do your dharma, but your dharma connects to your Sanatana Dharma. So that's basically how you learn to live a life of integration. And that's what we're trying to do. What we often do too much in our lives is we compartmentalize. Oh, this is the part of my life which is just about earning money, and this is the part of my life where I do my spiritual stuff. These are the days of weeks where I have to just engage in all my material affairs, and this is the day in the week when I do something spiritual. But no, can we start living a life of integration? Can we start living a life where we're seeing divinity, interacting with divinity and serving divinity on a moment-to-moment basis? That's possible if we learn how to integrate Swadharma and Sanatana Dharma.
explained that sarva means swadharma. It means we have also to give up our swadharma. So please can you explain this a little bit, because I understood that we have to have balance between swadharma and sanatana dharma, and how to give up our swadharma, like in this case it's elevated, high elevated level. So
what does that actually mean in
Yes.
practical terms?
how we can understand this better, like it's a little bit confusion for me.
Yeah. So basically we talked about how there's these two sides, Swadharma and Sanatana Dharma. Throughout the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna encourages us to do both. He's encouraging Arjuna to do both. And then right at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityaja, give it up now, and just engage in your eternal spiritual pursuit. So what does this mean for us practically? We can say that there's two key messages from this that we should take. The first key message is that when we're talking about Swadharma, we're talking about a role. This is a role. Role as in R-O-L-E. And this is your identity. So when Krishna says Sarva Dharman Parityaja, what he's basically saying is never think you are your role. Never identify with your role. Give up the attachment to that designation. Doesn't necessarily mean give it up, but give up the attachment. I am not the president of the temple. I'm a servant of God, playing the role at this moment of being the president of the temple. There's a big difference between that. And what happens in the world often is that we identify ourselves with our role, and then we try to use that role in service, but it's the other way around. So basically, when Krishna is saying Sarva Dharman Parityaja, in our position at the moment, what Krishna is basically saying is, don't identify with the temporary roles, designations, positions that you've adopted, but realize they are just a vehicle to serve. And then we can say the other message of Sarva Dharman Parityaja is that ultimately, when one reaches a level of spiritual maturity, and one reaches a certain level of absorption in the spiritual reality, then they no longer actually even need to function on this side, because they are accomplished enough to fully immerse themselves in the spiritual essence of life. But for most of us, we're not there. Krishna told Arjuna, you're not there, because if you try to go from the battlefield and you go to the forest thinking that now you're just going to become a yogi and you're going to meditate all day, you'll sit down to meditate and in your mind you'll be thinking about what's happening on the battlefield. So if we try to eject ourselves from the world prematurely, if we give up our duties prematurely, then basically we're going to end up with a detrimental effect on our journey. This is like scaffolding. And this is like the building that you're now building. So you need scaffolding to build the building. Then you've got to wait for the cement to dry. But once the building is built, if you take the scaffolding away before the cement is dry, then what will happen is as soon as you take that away, the whole thing will also collapse. But if you keep it there until the cement is dry, once you take it away, it has no bearing. But one has to reach that level of spiritual maturity. And therefore the Bhagavatam says that until one has reached the level of spiritual maturity and absorption, they should not try to prematurely eject or remove themselves from the material situation, but rather use it as a supportive aspects to help them. Does that help?
So, considering the time, we have 2 more questions. I mean, one online and Tulasya, anyone? So, we'll go to the one online. So, it's from Katerina, Dandavas Pranam. I would love to hear Maharaj's thoughts on what is happening with our climate or environment. I would also greatly appreciate any thoughts on how to remain spiritual in light of the climate crisis, and especially when encouraging people who ignore it. Encountering people who ignore it. So when she encounters people who ignore this crisis. I'm not proud of it, but I have noticed in myself less compassion and love in such moments, as I feel as if such people are in some way harming Mother Earth and cause suffering to others.
Yeah, like when we see all problems in the world, if we trace them back to their root cause, is due to a lack of spiritual vision. So whether you look at political problems in the world, or whether you look at economic problems in the world, or whether you look at environmental problems in the world, the root of it is that we don't have we're not, it's a lack of spirituality, it's a lack of spiritual vision. Economic problems exist ultimately because people have greed. So when there's a basic quality of greed, then know that there's going to be exploitation, and if there's exploitation, know that there's going to be imbalance, and the haves and the have-nots. Probably 99% of the wealth in this world is owned by 0.1% of the people. That's the kind of imbalance you get when greed enters our society. If you look at political problems again, it's because people place value on the wrong things. And environmental problems in their root cause exist because we don't have a spiritual vision of Earth. If you see Earth as just matter, if you see Earth as just elements, if you see Earth as just a resource, then what's going to happen is ultimately you're going to see yourself as the controller, the enjoyer, the proprietor of that resource, and therefore you're going to exploit. And then as soon as you exploit, you're going to create imbalance, and that imbalance then shows in things like climate change, in things like lack of sustainable resources in the world, pollution, and so on and so forth. So, when people have a spiritual vision of Mother Earth, that it's Mother Earth, it's not just a resource, it's not just matter, it's not just elements, but it's actually the mother. The earth is actually nourishing us, the earth is supporting us, the earth is facilitating us to live in this world, and therefore we see the earth as a person. Spirituality is personal, and therefore we never see Mother Earth as a resource but as a personality. Then we see divinity in nature, and when we see divinity in nature, then naturally we will have respect. So, yes, there's a difference between lust and love. We often say this, that a student asked his teacher, what's the difference between lust and love? And he said, you see that flower? If you lust after it, then you'll go up to it, you'll smell it, you'll pick it, you'll smell it, and you'll enjoy it. But if you love that flower, then you'll go up to it, you'll protect it, you'll water it, and you'll nourish it, and you'll allow it to grow to its full capacity so that it can exhibit all its colors and all its fragrance. So that's the difference between lust and love, and that's the difference between people who have a spiritual vision of Mother Earth and people who have a very materialistic vision. And so that's where it all comes from. Eco-theology is what we need. A theological understanding of the ecological issues. If you try to solve ecological issues without factoring deep theology and spiritual vision, then you don't actually solve ecological issues in their deepest sense. We have to respect the earth is our mother.
Dear Maharaj, if you don't mind, I will also shortly ask my question. Firstly, thank you very much for this thorough explanation about karma. And I was just thinking about ashram karma, which you mentioned, that we have our duties towards our relatives, families, surrounding people. And how should we behave if sometimes, like these responsibilities that we get are not according to our desires? Like, for example, people naturally expect from us something, and we have to do something. So how do we understand what is like really my duty, and where do I need sometimes to confront and follow my karma and say no, let's say, to the close one? How do we do it?
Yeah.
Practically?
So sometimes you have dharmic responsibilities, dharmas, certain responsibilities towards people, but then sometimes it feels like it's counterproductive. It's not helping you in your spiritual journey. And how do you know when to continue honoring those things and doing them? And how do you know if you should give it up? And how do you know you're not being irresponsible by giving it up? That's the essence.
Yes, because sometimes we don't really feel that we should confront. It's easier for us to do what we expected, and sometimes we do not even think whether it's according to
Whether
our
I should.
karma. So
How do you know when to raise an issue?
yes.
Yeah, in the course, life in the world is complex, and there are dharmas, and sometimes those dharmas are very naturally being integrated with our spiritual journey. And some dharmas, you look at them and you think, I have no idea how this is helping me in my spirituality. How do we know whether that's just a divine arrangement, I have to go through it, or whether I'm supposed to speak up and change it? Of course, these questions are better answered with close people who know your situation, who know you, who know your strengths, and who know where sometimes you may have weaknesses. And they may be, in discussion with them, better placed to help you understand whether if you're keeping quiet is because out of spiritual maturity, or if you're keeping quiet out of weakness and shyness. They can help you to understand, more about your own intentions. So what I would say is a lot of the intricate decisions of Dharma, and at what time to speak up, change it, give it up, those intricate decisions of Dharma are better unraveled in conversation, because there are many things to consider in any given situation. But let me just say one other thing about this. If you find yourself in a situation of Dharma where you feel it's not comfortable, it's not inspiring, and it's not seemingly helping you in your spiritual journey, there's a Christian prayer, and the person says, God, I prayed to you for strength, and you just kept sending me problems to solve. I prayed to you for love, and you just kept sending me people who needed help. I prayed to you for wisdom, and you just sent me so many unexpected situations. God, now I can see you gave me everything I needed, but nothing that I wanted. There's a sense in which sometimes we're not aware, but the struggles, the difficulties, the friction, and the obstacles that we go through are sometimes also helping us to develop inner qualities, inner resilience, inner muscle that ultimately helps us in our spiritual journey. So, sometimes we give this analogy of a butterfly that's breaking out of a cocoon. And then someone saw the butterfly struggling and thought like, maybe I should just help it. So you just slit open the cocoon so the butterfly could just fly. So then the butterfly came out and it flew, and after 1 minute it just came tumbling down. And he was wondering, And then he realized it was nature's arrangement for the butterfly to have to struggle with its wings to break through that cocoon. Because from that struggle, it developed the muscle, the strength in its wings to then fly in the sky. So you have to also understand this art of sometimes learning to become comfortable with the uncomfortable situations of life. That's one art you don't learn in school. Because what we're told is when there's discomfort, get rid of it, run away from it, mitigate it. It's bad. You have to also understand that the pain of this world has a purpose. The problems of this world can lead to progress, and the discomfort of this world can create unimaginable growth if we're able to process it and utilize it in an appropriate way. So sometimes when we're going through struggles, also try to reflect on this, which could give another perspective. Thank you so much. So thank you all so much for your patience, your attention, your presence, positivity. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. We appreciate it also very much. So thank you very much for coming, everyone. We're going to be ending now. But just before you go, there's one thing we'd like to mention. At CS, we also on a journey, and those who are on the journey with us know that we're on the second step on the journey right now, and we're moving to the third one of the summer series. And the next step of the journey will be a workshop, a 2-day workshop with Urmila Mataji, who will be coming, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and speaking about career dharma. So how to realize your career dharma, how to analyze it, how to analyze yourself, speaking about such topic as 9 principles of dharma in work, what happens when we do someone else's work, wrong in the wrong field, and putting it all together and making a plan to move forward. So basically a practical plan for us to realize our dharma, who are we and how we can best serve this world and Krishna as well, God. So thank you so much. Thank you, Maharaj, again. And we wish you a successful journey for you forward. Thank you. And Dr. Bani wants to sing.
Sorry for a little disturbance of 1 minute. We just want to say that in the audience there is also a special guest that is coming to the Bhakti retreat, and I have to say to welcome her. That is Govinda Mataji, or Govinda Das Prabhu. She's one of the first disciples of Srila Prabhupada. So we're very happy to have her here in our Swiss Yatra, and we are very much looking forward to associate with her. She's a very open and kind person, and you can really speak to her about Srila Prabhupada. She loves to share her stories, and she will also promote her book here. It's called The Place of Sandalwood and Roses. So you will have the opportunity also to read about her adventures with Srila Prabhupada. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.